everyone. This is the Board of Directors meeting, September 28th, 2023, and it is currently 9:32 a.m. Welcome, everyone.
Morning.
I believe we're going to start the morning with Mr. Barr's Inspire Award.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chairman. Bob Barnhart, Chase Clark, Tanner Bartles, Tim Strike, Scott Murphy, and Ben Schrank had to dig through a ton of sand in order to get this Inspire Award. Let me tell you what I mean. We had a mechanical failure at the bottom of one of our sand filters in our treatment plant at Myersville. And they did what we always do. We went out and got a quote to have it repaired. And the quote came back and the vendor said, yeah, we can do it for $36,000 and we'll be there when we get there. I think the estimate was 6 months or so. Well, if you know anything about MES people, we just don't accept things like that. So our team got together and they said, you know what, we can do this ourselves. So they got new shovels and they went in, they shoveled out all the sand, made the repair themselves. And we're happy that they did it because it only took 2.5 days and they did it for, I think, under $1,000, is that right? Or about $1,000, went to Home Depot or something, got the parts. But I'm just always excited to give these awards when our people step outside the box. They don't accept the first thing that's given to them. And it makes for a better workplace here at the MES. It makes for a better workplace as far as how we can serve our customers. And I know our customer, the city of Myers, I know the town of Myers was very grateful that we didn't just accept the $35,000 quote and wait 6 months to do the work. So all of you, come on up, you. This is the part you really came for, not even me, though. So I'm going to let our executive director take over and do the honors. Okay.
Barr, you're the only board member here, so just Dean Johnson. Both of you, can you come up? We have the board member representatives, just the chair in here. Come up and get in the picture with us. Yeah. Social media purposes only. We gotta do shoulder. We gotta get shoulder.
Have to Photoshop Shelley's head in there.
Yeah, we'll get in that chair. Oh, sorry.
Ready?
So,
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Okay.
Hey. See a few minutes after the meeting, so you photos. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes from August 24th, 2023. All of you have been sent a copy of the minutes, and if there are no corrections or comments, the minutes will be approved as distributed. I'm not hearing anything, so they're approved. And Dr. Glass, the Executive Director's report.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Next slide. So whopping zero for expenses for Deputy Furketic and I over the last month, but we are traveling to the Water Environment Federation's Technical Exposition and Conference. Deputy is leaving tomorrow. I'm leaving Saturday, and we'll be there for most of the week in Chicago, learning and engaging with colleagues throughout the country and the world in water, wastewater. We'll get an update on what's going on nationally with PFAS and other major issues in our field. So that will appear on our next report. And there may be some legacy things that aren't on today, but today, this is all finance gave me.
And I'm doing the presentation on Sunday.
Deborah Fketic is a delegate, and she has board responsibilities for the national organization, and she's going to be doing a presentation on Sunday. And I will be attending Blacks in Water as well as a Blacks in Water breakfast. It's a national group of minority engineering professionals. Next slide. Lots of engagement. I have a lengthy presentation. I do want to highlight, I did give a seminar at the University of Maryland Community Engagement, Environmental Justice and Health Program with Department of Housing and Community Development, Maryland Department of Environment, and the Department of Planning. That's a week-long conference on environmental justice and health at the University of Maryland, College Park. That was a great presentation. I also gave a presentation to the environmental engineering department at Johns Hopkins University, my alma mater. I gave them the MES 101 and an update on things we're doing. The room was primarily PhDs and postdocs, but you know, it was what it was. And I attended the Bowie State MBE program. Our MBE representative, our MBE program manager was there. With a representative from TESS, and they were there all day. I was there for the afternoon, heard some presentations from other state agencies, and our normal engagement with a lot of other state agencies over the course of the last month. And there's some other comments on them too. Next slide. So private entities, there was a focus this past month on engagement with nonprofit organizations in different parts of Baltimore City that are highlighted there. And I had a great site visit to Harford County. Next slide. And although there was a lull in recruitment during the summer, the fall is a highlight of recruitment fairs, both at the universities throughout the state and job fairs in the different jurisdictions. So we have 16 college and job fair events on our calendar. The reports have been very positive so far. This morning, Ms. Cooper showed me a stack of resumes received from Salisbury and the University of Maryland. We have a list of engagements from also Johns Hopkins had a career fair. So this is also directly connected to us improving our inflow minus our outflow. So in August, we onboarded 14 new employees. We lost 11. Our vacancy rate is now below 5, but I'll leave that to the folks that are really leading the charge and HR to present in their report. But in August, before the executive office intern left, as she got good with her graphics on Excel, I asked her to develop a monthly hires versus terminations to get a feel for the times of year that are better or worse. It's only 1 year of data. However, I wanted to see what was going on. And the only correlation I could see was both, if you look at July 22, so to be x-axis, new hires, terminations by month, y-axis, the total per month. And we have a summer thing. Something happens in June and July, August-ish. But both years, we had the only times where the green bar is greater than the blue bar were July of 22 and June of 23 and slightly July 23. So this was, you know, it's only 1 year. If we're doing a scientific study, we can't just call it a thing. But we also have a peak of the dark blue bar. Now, this is part of having it as one of our goals at the start of FY23, but in September, October, and November, December, all before the holidays, you know, more people want to be employed or we have more success. Maybe it's we've had some theories, maybe it's the summer graduates and they aren't really looking until they enjoy a summer after college. Maybe it's everyone getting prepared for the holiday season and everyone wants their bank accounts to be better by the holiday season, or people not leaving before the holiday season, or before our bonuses, before the BEST program has its payouts. No, whatever the reason, the fall is our good time. And there's data to show that right now for what we can talk about in September. But we're focused on replicating September 22, October 22, November 22, and December 22 to make sure our vacancy rate is at a super low. Yes?
Do you get a survey done by those who are leaving? When you start to look at that, you may find there are some similarities there.
We do, for those that are willing, we do get a survey, an exit interview survey. Yeah. So it's a great graph. Ms. Short was lovely in being able to put data together, and it does show that the great fall of 22, which we're focused on replicating in the fall of 23. And we don't put out radio advertisements. We do LinkedIn, we do some hiring, but the recruitment fairs and job workforce fairs, that's our main strategy for getting more people to know what we do and to attract them to MES. So, and we believe it's working. Next slide. So, right after last month's board meeting, we sent several of the team, lots of the team members to the regional. So the Chesapeake Tri-Association Conference, Tri-Con for those that don't know, we had 2 board members that were present at the conference, but we had probably 25 staff, 20 or so staff, 20 staff from water and wastewater and the executive office there. We had our booth, and you see Mr. Barr's smiling face in 2 pictures, receiving the award on behalf of the city of Cambridge at Tri-Con, and that was the George Burke Facility Safety Award. Safety is our first pillar. We are very proud of the performance of the team at Cambridge. He then was in Cambridge on Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday.
On Tuesday, presenting the award to the city of Cambridge for the work that we do on their behalf and for the performance of the facility. That facility actually had a MES violation early on in my tenure, and it was completely fixed. It was related to the railing height along the reactors, but it was fixed, and they're an excellent crew and they do an excellent job. So thanks to them. And we also won an award. Next slide. We got that. Good. We also won an award thanks to MCI Hagerstown Wastewater Treatment Plant. Won the Residuals and Biosolids Beauty Contest for Best Class B Residuals and Biosolids in the state. So lots of caveats, but we're very proud. If you're a wastewater engineer, you understand what that means. And we're very proud. Proud of our biosolids, not our biosolids. So that's great. That's incredible awards, and it shows that's an award for all of the staff at those facilities. And all the great work that they do.
Well, and I think it's important to mention too, that they're competing against a lot of the big facilities in the state. So, this is just a little plant. It's, I think, a 1.6 million gallon a day plant, and compared to your Blue Plains and the WSSC facilities and so forth, it was a big deal. I think first time we've competed, we've submitted samples several times, but this is the first time we actually won.
And next slide. And I'm going to start, but I'm going to let Deputy Furketic take over because you see her smiling face. Just look for the shortest person in the picture. After a 6-year hiatus, Motley Pooh is back.
Yes. Yes.
Although, so they put in a gallant effort. We did not bring back a trophy. However, these are very complicated events that take years of training to specify, and they change the rules every year. And I will pass it to Deputy Furketic to say anything else that she'd like to say about the team.
Yep, thank you. As a former coach, I don't coach anymore because I don't have the time, and I handed it over to somebody else, but basically this is, there's 5 events in the Operations Challenge, and this is done throughout the country and actually internationally. Next week, there's close to 50 teams that are going to be at WEFTEC competing. We've got teams coming from Denmark, Argentina. I'm trying to think, there's a couple of Canadian teams. I mean, besides all the teams from the regions. And so this competition, what they were doing, this is the first time this particular group had ever competed, formed the team. As a matter of fact, one of the team members only had been on the team for about a month because somebody dropped out and we needed to have all these people. But basically they compete and they have process control where they're doing a lot of the math and how plants work. They do lab tests. They're on site. The maintenance event is they're basically pulling a pump out, taking it apart, putting it back together. Collections event, which is on the, you can go to the next, collections event where they are actually fixing, they're cutting a piece out of a pipe and putting in connection and putting it into a new pipe, and then it gets pressurized to see if there's any leaks. And then the safety event, which somebody has fallen and collapsed underneath this platform, and they have to go down and do a rescue safely, using all the different equipment that you use for that. And also, meanwhile, somebody else is down there taking apart valves and putting them back together. Everything is timed. The competition here in Ocean City, it's the last big regional competition before WEFTEC. So we get people that come in from all different places. We had a team from Hampton Roads. We had a team from Texas. We had a team from New York. Trying to think who else came in, but we had teams from all over besides the 4 regional teams. So considering this was their first year, they came in 3rd on the regional level, but they tried real hard and they're excited to do it again next year. And I was real proud of them.
So thanks to Coach Todd Bolden,
Yeah.
And to the team members, Chris Dallas, Jerome Lucky, Dwayne Biles, and Ryan Zackrell, for their commitment to stepping in and competing. Love the quote, "You miss every shot you don't take." I think that was Michael Jordan, but who knows? So thanks for starting. Thanks to them for, taking the risk and starting again. And next year they'll bring home the trophy.
Yep. Yep.
But we're still competing against DC Water and WSSC in the region. So
Howard
you know,
County was the other
we're mighty in Howard County. So much larger wastewater crews, focusing, whatever. We're not worried about their size. We'll keep competing. Next slide.
Well, Meter Madness.
And Meter
too.
Madness.
That was a separate event.
Separate event. Yeah. That was Casey.
Casey Hanna.
Casey
Yeah.
Hanna. Thanks to Casey for competing in that too. He made it to the semifinals, I believe. Mr. Hanna did.
Yeah.
So on September 8th, I had the opportunity to stop by and take a tour of our Harford County Integrated Waste Management Facility. It was a great time, late on a Friday afternoon. But I'm thankful to the staff that were around. Thanks to Chuck, Janelle, Mike, Rachel, Holly, and especially Mr. Jeff Reed, who took me on the tour and discussed all the challenges and success. And thanks to Harford County for their great apples. Next slide. And we finished our tour of the 4 minor league stadiums in the state. And it was a great night. It was no rain out, rain after. Right at the end, but we did get 7 innings in, and they did win. And you see Lipinski, Hartlaub, and Ford down there in the bottom right.
Penn State crew.
That's the Penn State crew down there in the far right.
We are
whatever Penn State. We accept them even though they're Penn State. Next slide.
Any standouts from the 4 stadiums for food?
For food stand out for the 4 stadiums. I don't know. Bowie seemed to have the best. So some people had long lines. Some stadiums didn't have their the concierge. Bowie seemed to have the best just service. I don't know about the
Aberdeen lines were long.
The
I didn't even eat anything because
Yeah,
the
it was
lines were so
just-
long.
But maybe that was the beer drinking. Who knows?
Well, they would have been the bathroom lines were long.
Long too.
Yeah.
So we continue our quarterly health and wellness events. And Deputy Fiketic did participate in this one, even though it was mindfulness and there was no activity. So mindfulness is a state of being fully present and aware of what is happening in the moment without judgment or distraction. And it involves focusing on sensations to ground yourself in the present. We learned about the 10-second vacation. We will try to use them in some executive staff meetings and see if they work, but they theoretically calm you before you get to the it actually is scientifically proven to lower bias in meetings and conflict. So thanks to Dr. Dina Samuel for her time and the presentation. We did not have a great turnout. The nutrition class continues to be the highest turnout on record so far, but hopefully staff will review the stream, and those that didn't get an opportunity will listen to some of her techniques and apply them in their lives. Yeah. It was difficult for some to get through.
Yes.
So
I'm not real good at sitting still for that long.
I wrote a very lengthy presentation, but I want to make the board aware of something I've been doing as a project for the past 10 months. And I want to acknowledge some of the folks that helped guide the process along the way. But beginning in October, on October 17th of 2022, just with ad hoc meetings with one staff member, Mr. Quista Powell, thank you for your time. We started trying to figure out how we could be involved in the Justice 40 initiative. So the Justice 40 initiative is a program developed in the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, where approximately 40% of 1.7 trillion over the next 4 years remaining, 4 federal fiscal years remaining. If the region that you're serving, if the section of an area, the zip code for an area is a federally recognized environmental justice area, the normal 20% match from the federal government does not apply, and the project can be executed with 100% federal funds. So environmental justice is the fair treatment and involvement of all people in the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policy. It includes equal protection, community involvement, and healthy living environments. That's the standard definition. It is not, there is no single legal definition of environmental justice. My interpretation of environmental justice is everyone should have access to clean air, clean water, and healthy soils to raise their children on, to fish, waters to fish in, etc. So over the year, as a part of normal meetings with other state agencies, representatives from MDOT-TSO, State Highway Administration, Maryland Port Administration, MDE, and DGS outside of MDOT. And we've also met with, again, the environmental justice centers at both the University of Maryland and Johns Hopkins University. We engaged with Eagle Harbor in Prince George's County, Nanjemoy in Charles County. We reached out to EPA Region 3, the U.S. Water Alliance, the Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Agriculture Forest Service. We've engaged with Clean Water Action, South Baltimore Land Trust, the Environmental Integrity Project, and recently, as you saw on my engagement list, Rebuild Metro in Baltimore, Central Baltimore Partnership, the South Baltimore Gateway Partnership, Greater Baybrook Alliance, the Historic East Baltimore Community Action, and the Historic East Baltimore Community Action Coalition. Many of these are thanks to Senator McCray in Baltimore City, who gave me the contacts, and MDOT-TSO and MPA for their connections to these nonprofit organizations. So in the spirit of environmental justice, it is community-led description of what the community wants for parts of their neighborhood or where they feel their neighborhoods are lacking. So more thanks to, as I work with Ms. Powell, we expanded it to work with Mrs. Kathy Waters and Mr. Precious Ozo, both of Technical Environmental Services inside of MES. Thanks to Ms. Slatnick for her help in putting that team together. But in the last month, to go after 2 proposals, with the engagement of community leaders, we've reached out to I said something, and Ms. Slatnick and Ms. Dolliner both stepped up to help with, I wrote lots of proposals in my academic career, I'm also very busy, so I realized that my bandwidth was limited and I needed help. And so they both stepped up. They both also added team members, Ms. Stephanie Peters and Ms. Amy Warner, who were lead writers of 2 proposals we are submitting today. They are proposals to the U.S. Department of Transportation. They are on behalf of the Baltimore City Department of Transportation, Baltimore City Department of Housing and Community Development, and the Maryland Department of General Services, Greater Baybrook Association, and the Central Baltimore Partnership. One proposal is for the community around Cecil Elementary School and the Cecil Community Center to help with traffic reduction and greening on their property. And the other proposal on Poteet Street, that's the Cecil Elementary School area. So to green some of their blacktop, to have calming, to have safe routes to school for children. And the other is a Poteet Street where there is a brownfield off of Poteet Street, where there's a brownfield that has homeless folks living on it. That is both Department of General Services property adjoined to City of Baltimore property, and where the communities, this is all led by the communities. This would all start with community engagement for their vision of what they want in these 2 areas. And if the federal funds come through, we will be working on the planning and the education and outreach associated with the 2 projects. So this is a major federal effort. This is both an opportunity for MES to grow our revenue, which is part of our mission, but more importantly, it's an opportunity for us to help areas of the state and to establish that we are an organization that will write for grants for any portion of the state that is in the federal programs. So those states are also in the East and the West. There are regions of the state in the East and the West that already also have these issues. They're not just urban, but they are concentrated in Baltimore City and Prince George's County. So this all relates to our mindfulness of our mission to help with the technical and operational support for the environment throughout the state. And we are just beginning. Through this effort, we had contact with the Maryland Clean Energy Center, and we wrote a partnership letter for their effort for community solar, the Solar for All program through the Environmental Protection Agency. And they are going for $100 million to support throughout the state the expansion of solar energy. We also have 4 NOFOs, 4 notices of funding opportunities in the queue, including one that's a brownfields opportunity that the Poteet Street project would be directly related to as well. So I feel like it's a labor of love over the last 10 months. I didn't really tell you all about it, just as I utilize my time and some small number of staff's time to get it going. But as long as IRA and bipartisan infrastructure law are funding, this is a great opportunity where we're not stepping on any other agencies or municipalities' toes. We're just trying to help raise dollars to improve their regions and support them. So thanks to everyone involved, including Deputy Furketic, who also stepped in over the last few months. And thank you to, one person, try not to, it's like one of those things, you don't want to miss out anyone that helped. Thanks to Ted Kluge, our grants administrator, for his support. And we will be pushing the button on those submissions before the close of business today. So I waited until I had something that I knew it's not done yet, but it's not a gonna do. We put a lot of effort into this, and it's been it's been really fun to work on and fun to engage with all of those communities. So I believe, next slide. That's it. I believe that was the last slide. And thank you so much, Madam Chair.
It's awesome. Do you know when you're gonna find out about the justice?
March of 2024 is when they will respond, but we're going to continue to work on other submissions, and they'll be in your regular.
That was a terrific report. Thank you. And congrats on all the fun, exciting Motley Poo updates. That's actually very exciting. That's applying everything that you do and have learned. So that's wonderful. Up next, we have the new business report, which was formerly called the agency activity report. This is a list of all the proposals that have been accepted since the last meeting. Are there any comments on that? Comments, questions? Okay, thank you. There we go. Okay, thank you. And next up, we have the financial report, and we have Mr. Patel, and it looks like we have Kayla Hammer today, the financial accounting manager, to explain to us if we're solvent.
Yeah, so I'm reporting on behalf of Hammett today. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us. So hopefully I can do as well as he does. So for the first slide, labor sales, this is MES's most important benchmark. We're doing very well. We're at 14.21% over 2023 actuals and 3.5% over 2024 budgeted amounts. So very well on this so far. We're only 2 periods into the fiscal year. So I would expect for this trend to continue. Next slide, please. For the next slide, billable hours has increased 7.8% over last August, which is very significant and is good. Shows that MES is expanding scope of work and expanding into new projects. We have more people on more billable hours. It's also increasing the labor sales, which again is up 14.21% over last August. For overhead variance, the overhead expenses are less this August compared to last August due to some major overhead vacancies that we've had. Once those overhead vacancies are filled, I would expect the gap here to not be as significant as it currently is. Fringe recovery, fringe variance, those are pretty much on par with where they should be. They'll even out more over time based on holidays and as fringe expenses over time, you know, the increase in costs in health insurance, all of those related to employee benefits. Working capital recovery, that is on target. Project variances, this is increased over last August, mainly due to interest. The net earnings exceeds last August based on the factors above, and revenues are also increased over last August. And while revenues are an important factor, they are not a major benchmark for MES due to most of the pass-through expenses. Next slide, please. Most of this I covered on the previous slide, but I just wanted to mention the full year estimate for 2024. It continues to exceed our budget. We are projecting to be at 5 million. The full year budget was 4.1, so we're doing very well. Thank you. Any questions? Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hammer.
Thank you.
Next up, we have HR, and Ms. Betleon, I believe, is going to be joining us to go over our HR reports.
Morning. Currently, MES has a total of 749 active employees. There are 38 vacant positions, which has lowered the agency's vacancy rate to 4.8. Out of these 38 vacancies, we have 9 positions that have been accepted, and the individuals have confirmed their start dates are in October. And additionally, we have 3 hire packets that are out currently.
Back below 5% is the key part of this slide. Blue line, ding, 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 back below 5%. And trending in the right direction, but it's only one data point. So we had our summer increase in vacancies, but we're looking to continue the fall decline as everyone gets their pumpkin spice lattes by being employed.
And those numbers are slightly even better than what was given to us in our original packet. So congrats.
Yes, we included yesterday's onboarding.
And it looks like we are going to be contemplating a resolution.
Depending on, this is still you.
Oh,
So if you can read, you can just read it, but.
a resolution authorizing the executive director of Maryland Environmental Service to close certain offices and facilities of the service on Friday, November 24th, 2023. And further authorizing certain payments to employees of the service. Have the day after
So-
Thanksgiving.
So for all new board members, this is presented every year. It's been going on for a while. I don't know how long, but definitely my years and over 10 years.
Probably 30 years.
Over 30 years. Okay, so it's just presented to you as a board resolution, as the board's decision of whether staff that are not required to work because of the facilities are still open, but they will get a holiday. The extra payment is for holiday pay for them to take the day on another day. So Black Friday.
Excellent. So we'll entertain a motion for approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Is there a
I'll
second? Excellent. Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? And if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Same sign for oppose. Unanimously approved. Thank you. Hope everybody enjoys their day off. And Mr. Witt is with us today, who is the chair of our Human Resources Committee, and he is going to report out on the activities of our HR committee.
Thank you. The HR committee met on September 20th to review a couple of items, the first of which was to review the compensation administration guidelines, and we voted to approve bringing that to the full board for approval today. Dr. Glass, do you want to go over
Most definitely.
the highlights of the guidelines?
Yes, sir. So the last version of the guidelines were completed in 2007. And so we embarked on an update to include a lot of the work the board has done. So based on our initiatives to create career ladders, to be very transparent in how we go through the process of both performance-based compensation, cost of living adjustments, and reclassifications, and to have a document that all staff can turn to on their onboarding to see the process as it's laid out for if they fall in one of those career ladders, and also our seasonal times of year where we are evaluating their performance and evaluating their growth. Yours.
No, that was okay.
Oh, that was okay? Okay, good.
Like this is on it.
Okay. So we explain our compensation philosophy. We go through our program goals, and we particularly focus on, well, we want to be clear that there's a time when we're looking at the annual evaluation of all staff approximately prior to the new fiscal year. And that is how we go through and we present to the board the performance of staff and go through that performance compensation. And then there's another time of the year where, with all of the data from the past year's performance and all of the conclusion of our audited financials, we evaluate staff that are recommended for reclassification of some type. We also highlight, as we are right now, that every 2 years we will check through an external market survey how our compensation for every position stacks against county governments, state government, utilities, and a smattering of private sector entities that offer the same things, the same work. So to make sure from Garrett County to Somerset County, and obviously the 95 corridor counties, how we're stacking up for our compensation. Because we are statewide, that is a very unique process where, based on the difference in the standard of living in different counties, we can't be the best in all of those counties. But we're trying to find that proper ground through a external study. So, and if that study shows that in certain job classifications we are deficient, then we also, as we did the last time, bring that to the board for their consideration, how to adjust. So Ms. Dolliner is getting a lot. Ms. Dolliner took all of the concepts and created the first draft of this. Then all of staff has had the opportunity to have input, and we brought it to the HR committee and also took their input and made a couple of improvements as well. So, and that's all I have to say about it. Chairman Witt.
Again, it was approved unanimously to bring this for approval to the entire board. So, Ms. Heller, if you want to have a vote on it.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Approve.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item was basically to bring the MES sexual harassment policy in line with the state revisions. So just an update. Mr. Coleman reviewed this with the HR committee, and we approved of the changes and in bringing it to the full board as well. Sean, do you want to go over any of this?
Sure. So this year, the General Assembly enacted legislation that allows all state employees, even those who work for agencies with independent personnel systems, to file a complaint with the director of their agency alleging sexual harassment violations within 2 years. Previously, our policy had been that an employee could file a complaint within 30 days. So the purpose of this change in the MES policy is to make it consistent with the new state law that allows for up to 2 years to bring a complaint before the agency has. Employees are also authorized, separately to bring a complaint with the either the EEOC or the Commission on Civil Rights. So those avenues are also available to employees. But if they want to keep a complaint internal to MES, then this change would bring our policy, make it consistent with state law. And I'd also ask, because the law itself doesn't go into effect until October 1st. So my suggestion would be, if the board approves this today, that that approval will not be effective until October the 1st for this change in the policy.
Thanks, Sean. So again, the HR committee recommending the approval of this. So Shelley, if you want to have a vote on this, we can.
Thank you very much. So it looks like we're looking for a motion to update the sexual harassment policy effective October 1st, which would fall in line with the state policy. So looking for a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And we have a second. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have approval. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witt.
Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Frakatic, here to discuss the Best Plus and Executive Incentive Program for FY23.
Good morning, everyone. I want to go over our accomplishments for 2023 and give everybody the results of the best goals, how we did. It was a good year for everybody. And just to mention this, it will be next month when the board will be voting on the monetary award for best plus and the executive incentive. But for now, I just wanted to go over how we did on all the goals, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. You all got a lot of detail in your packages that were sent to you, so I'm not going to reiterate everything, but we met all of our safety goals, which was great. Especially because I know that the treasurer had made it a point that he wanted to see the number of OSHA reported incidents to decrease. And we did. We had 25 reportable injuries in 22, and this past year in 23, we only had 12. So this is good, and we're doing really well this year too, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx us. For our second goal, education, again, we completed all the goals, and everybody worked hard on this one. We had training courses developed. We did the career ladders for 6 different categories, and finance also worked on developing new user-friendly workday reports. So that all went real well. Also in education, let's see what else we had. A workday bonfire training. I know the communications group is working on actually coming up with new proposal templates for us, and that's almost done. So that's all gone very well. Goal 3, next one. Okay, thank you. Diversity and inclusion again. Sexual harassment training has been completed for all employees other than those that have just been brought on board. Carla is arranging training for those folks. She also started the diversity training, and we've actually we had asked for her to train 65% of employees. She trained actually over 71%, so that was great. And we're having another DEI sponsored activity coming up next week. I think it is the week after, something like that. Coming up anyways, we're going to be doing salsa dancing. So I missed it last year. I'm looking forward to it this year. Next slide. Our diversity recruitment efforts have been great. We've been attending job fairs at HBCUs. Each group attended their minority business enterprise outreach events. So that all went really well. Goal 4. Customer and community service. Again, all the goals, all the sub goals were completed.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I didn't know the numbers were finalized. Can you go back one slide? I don't know if Treasurer Davis or is still here, but meet or beat the state's goal of 29% MDE participation. The number here is that we hit 30.19% for FY23. So that's an uptick from last year, and we're very proud of that number. Sorry.
It's okay. It's just and I'm sorry I didn't mention that yet. We're just waiting for it to be officially recognized by GOSPA.
GOSPA, audited.
Yeah. Okay, goal 4. Okay, thank you. Again, customer and community service. We wanted to make sure that the managing directors and executive teams went and visited several facilities, not just their own. We did that. We also had community service volunteer activities. Now we had, I'm trying to think if it's on the next page. You go to the next page. Thanks. We had said we were going to participate in the Salvation Army Christmas Adopt the Family event. Actually the staff decided this year that they wanted to do Toys for Tots instead. And you can see the hall, the number of submittals from the staff, from the field staff and the people in the office. We had a really, really great turnout for Toys for Tots. And then let's see, other MES sites did some drives on their own, local food banks and all that. And then we beat our Maryland Charity Campaign goals. So we're getting ready to kick that one off again. The 24 calendar year begins in October. And the next one, please. Okay. All right. So this one, we got almost everything. We did really well. completing all the goals. We had a little bit of trouble submitting a grant application. And it was only because the dredging folks, we have done grant applications for, what was it, the facility, the vehicles. Yeah, thank you. I don't remember what the name of it was. But anyway, the RFP for the grant was not released until this fiscal year. So they were not able to do it, but we're doing it for them this year. So worked on that. Everybody else, including headquarters, finance, submitted grant applications. And so we said we got about 80% there, but everything else was completed. And the last one, administrative enhancements. Okay, well, we did all that. Our billable labor in 23 increased by 12.37% over 22. We've been reporting the vacancy rate every month to you. So it's, we did it. We did everything. It's just that one little objective that we just, we fell a little bit short, but that was, not because they didn't try. It was just because it wasn't, the EPA didn't issue the RFP. So that is it.
Thank you, Ms. Freketic. Any questions? All right, next up, Ms. Crosby with all of our procurement for the day.
Yes, good morning. Morning, everyone. Item 1 is for environmental ops. It's the Montgomery County Material Recycling Facility Condition Assessment and Analysis Study of the buildings. The awarded contractor is an AE shortlist contractor, Barton and LaJuice DPC. The amount of the contract is $498,393.80. The MBE goal on the project is 38.8%.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Excellent. Any questions on procurement item number 1? Okay, for all of those who would like to show their support for this, please signify by raising your right hand and saying aye for approval.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, approved. Thank you. Number 2.
Item 2 is for the wastewater engineering division. This is the Cunningham Falls State Park Route 77 collection system rehabilitation. This will be a competitively sealed bid. It has been advertised on 9/12/23. The estimated amount for the project is $4,600,000, and the MVE goal is 7%. Bids are due on this project October the 10th.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I think we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions about procurement item number 2?
I had a question. So we're taking a vote on this, but it's not been bid yet. Is it going to come back again after it's been bid with any updates?
Only if it exceeds the amount.
Only if it seems like.
If the bids exceed.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous approval. Procurement number 3, and just for the record, I am going to be recusing myself from number 3 and number 4. But Ms. Hattie?
Sure. Item 3 is for our environmental operation group. This is Mitchell Regional Landfill Disposal Permit for Phase 2. This is an AE shortlist report. The amount of the contract, and this is a pre-solicitation approval, is for $475,000, and the MBE goal is 20%.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second.
Any questions about number 3? Okay, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Oops, excuse me, I'm not voting.
Aye.
I was demonstrating, not voting. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Number 4.
Item 4, also for the environmental working group. This is the mid-shore temporary labor service for the mid-shore transfer and mid-shore to landfill regional recycling program. This was a competitively sealed bid. The awarded contract was quality staffing services. This is a renewal option in the amount of $53,570, bringing a total revised contract amount to $204,697.23.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, again, I am recusing myself from this one. Are there any questions? Okay, all those in favor of approval, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous approval. Number 5.
Number
Crosby.
5 is for our wastewater division. This is for the Dorsey Run wastewater treatment plant centrifuge installation project. This was a competitively sealed bid. The awarded contractor is Johnson Construction Company. The amount of $2,545,261. The MBE goal for this project is 16.2%.
There a motion for approval?
I will be
So-
abstaining. Sorry.
Thank you. And I believe we had a motion.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, all those in favor of approval, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And for the record, Ms. Joes has abstained. Number 6.
Number 6 is for the Technical and Environmental Service Group. This is a AE shortlist service. The awarded contractors Tabor Paramus Rutkovich in the amount of $300,000. Client on this is Maryland Environmental Administration, and this is for data analysis and electrical power.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Any questions or comments?
no.
Okay, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous approval. Thank you. Number 7.
Okay, number 7 is
Can I
for the,
abstain from voting on that one?
Who abstained?
I did. Brendan Butts.
Mr. Botts? Okay, thank you.
okay, item 7 is for our Environmental Operation Group. This is for unarmed security service at the Prince George's County Material Recycling Facility. This is a pre-solicitation approval, tentatively to advertise for September 26th. Estimated amount is
250.
The organics composting facility.
well, I have material recycling.
It's okay.
Okay, for the organic composting facility. Sorry about that. And the amount is $250,000, worth over 15%.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? And Mr. Botts is recusing himself from this vote.
No,
No, the last one.
Oh,
The
it was the
second
last
is-
one. Okay, okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have approval. Number 8, Ms. Crosby.
Okay, number 8, I need to look at that. This is for the Department of Finance. For the Department of Finance, the purchase of a Ford F-450 state body truck and the awarded contract is Apple Ford in the amount of $228,811.62.
Okay, do we have a motion for approval?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? And if not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is approved. Number 9, excuse me.
Number 9 is also for finance. This is for the purchase of a Ford F-150 and 2 Mitsubishi Outlander sport vehicle, and the amount is $525,000. The awarded contract is Apple Ford.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions? Okay, for all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's approved. Thank you very much, Ms. Crosby.
You're welcome.
Okay, displayed are the procurement notifications.
No.
And please feel free to jump in if there are any questions. Okay, thank you. I think we're going to move to our group updates next, and I believe we are going to start with Mr. Barr's group with Mr. Randy Craig.
You can get it.
I just wanted to say a couple words about Randy and what he does before he gives you the details. We have a lot of people at MES to make sure things go right. Randy's group is one of the groups that does that. He's responsible for construction inspection. He makes sure that what we specify gets built according. And it's a job. We very seldom see him because he's out in the field 99% of the time. But he has 30 years of experience. He's an Eagle Scout. So it's a good start. And he's a veteran of the new US Navy. So with that, I'll turn it over to Randy and he can tell you what he does in the
There, whatever.
Is this all right?
Yeah, that's fine, yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barr, Dr. Glass, Ellen, Mr. Reddick, members of the board. Hi, my name is Randy Craig. I'm a proud employee of MES, love working here, been here a while and stay a long time. Tell you a little bit about our group, construction inspectors, who we are, what we do. We're a very small group. Our organizational chart is under the water wastewater group, under Mr. Barr's theme. I report to Mr. Lipinski, Chief of Engineering, and this is our staff here. You'll see we have 5 inspectors out in the field currently. In years past, we've had as many as 7 or 8 at times. This is kind of a right fit for us right now. You'll see this is a group of folks that are very committed to MES. The average length of our service is 16 years. So this is a group of people that's experienced professionals and have been at MES for some time. So next slide, please. Okay, so where do we work? As Mr. Barr said, we're in the field. And unlike a lot of MES groups that have certain regions they work out of, or certain facilities, say Poplar Island or Cuts Creek, or maybe an environmental ops facility, we work at all of those all over the state every day. So this is a map that shows where those stars are located of where our crew is working this month. So you can see we have a pretty good wide range of from way out in Western Maryland to the southern tip down there at Point Lookout. There's a few places in between. So, and that changes weekly, monthly as the work requires. So there's a list of our current projects there on the left. And as I said, that changes frequently. So an interesting fact is that on an average month throughout the year, our inspectors will drive over 1,600 miles a month. So we put a lot of miles on our vehicles. We count on those vehicles. That's our office. And that gets us everywhere in between. I always think that's pretty impressive, thinking they don't even leave the state of Maryland. We put those that kind of rubber on the road. So it's a lot of work. We have to go, in the construction business, as I said, I've done it a long time. You have to go where the work is. So that's what we do. That's our crew. Next slide, please. So who are our customers? We have internal, external, and some intergovernmental customers. I thought it'd be interesting to note for this, for the board here and others, that although we are in the water wastewater engineering group, that's where our designation, that's where our assignment is. We work with every single group at MES throughout the year and all the time. These are our current projects. So that's a reflection of that. We have a project with TES, several with EDR, another one I just got a phone call this morning about another one coming up at EDR, environmental ops projects, and of course our water wastewater projects. Externally, we also work directly as inspectors for other organizations, externally private clients. We have one at Conowingo, the mobile home park there has hired us to do inspections there. We've had some at Southern Hills, which is a development. We've had others in the past. These are the current ones in, say, 2023. Intergovernmental, we've had direct work with intergovernmental clients in the past. We don't have any currently, but we always look for them. And we've had several in the past. We've worked with the town of Leonardtown for many years. We've worked with Queen Anne's County. We did a job over in Cecilton not long ago, big water line pipeline project. So these are direct intergovernmental clients. So we have a whole range of work, and I think that it's reflective of the talent of our crew, that we're able to handle many different types of construction projects, and also the ethical responsibilities that we're known for, that we take very seriously. So they know when an inspector's on the job, they're going to have an ethical person there that's going to take responsibility for it. So I think that shows our reputation throughout the agency and elsewhere. So thank you. Next slide, please. It's fine.
All right.
Yeah, I think that was it. And I just had a few photos here and some active construction work. These are all from this month. So I try to be as current as possible. I showed a generator there simply because it's not show a lot of active work, but that's a big part of what we do. That takes a long time to get. There's a lot of preparation. So when that gets set, we're all very pleased and happy that's arrived on site. There's a new well we just drilled out at Germany State Park. We started the Up Next State Park wastewater treatment plant project. That's the manhole installation that you see there. And that's a new footing on the far right for the booster pump station out at the Maryland Military Reservation in Camp Frederick. So of course, these are all projects I'm sure you're very familiar with as you approved the funding for them, which we're very grateful for. So I figured I'd show you some active projects. So that's my presentation. Are there any questions? Okay, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Good job.
All right, get back to work.
Thank you. All right, next we have technical and environmental services, and I believe Mr. Tyler Pullen
Yes.
is here on behalf of Ms. Slatnick's group.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tyler Pullen, lead environmental specialist with TESS. I'm just going to quickly go over a small project we have with Queen Anne's County at Sellersville Wastewater Treatment Plant. This is benthic macroinvertebrate sand. Next slide. So this just kind of gives you an idea of where we are during this process. The two little blue rectangles are the lagoons, and then you can see all that's going on in Sellersville, like the frozen meat locker, the locker spot. Go next slide. So this is a more detailed view of where we are during this work. So the reason we're doing this is because Sellersville Wastewater Treatment Plant contains a condition in their NIPD's permit, condition in, and this requires an annual benthic study on where they discharge the red line branch to assess the impact of this wastewater discharge on the biological integrity of the stream. The study looks at 3 different segments of this stream. The first blue segment on the bottom, that's segment 1. This is about 150 meters upstream from the discharge location. The second segment is also 75 meters long, and this begins at the discharge location. And then segment 3 is, immediately after segment 2 is also 75 meters. So we're looking at a before discharge, during discharge, and then downstream from discharge to see how things are being affected. Next slide. So this just shows what we're looking for. We're looking for freshwater benthic macroinvertebrates, which are animals without a backbone that are larger than 0.5 millimeters. That basically just means anything without a backbone you can find and see in the water. We're not looking at micro. Habitats that we're looking at are rocks, logs, sediment, debris, and aquatic plants. The main habitats through this process are known as riffles, or where you're going to find a lot of these creatures. It's where there's kind of rock, logs, whatever, that are hitting that structure, creating oxygen and water flow. A lot of the creatures, animals we're finding are crayfish, clams, snails, aquatic worms, insects, nymphs, exciting stuff. Everyone likes touching that. So in each 75-meter segment, we sample 20 square feet. And the way we do that is with our net. It's called a D net. It's about 1 foot in width. And then we sample about 1 foot away from that net. So we have a rough 1 square foot, and we do that 20 times in our 75 meter segment. After we get everything in our net, we dump it in a sieve bucket, and then we put that in preservatives. And then it goes to a lab for identification of this species. And this is just a sample of what we get back from the lab. It's a bunch of Latin that shows what was found, how many were found, and we're looking to see, the species we find, are they sensitive to what's being put into the water, or are they very generic species that show, what's being put in the water is not great, and it's a generic form of species. Next slide. So after things are sampled, preserved, and sorted by the lab then does a statistical analysis on it and gives us a BB score on each segment, which just stands for Benthic Index of Biotic Integrity. And with that score comes a description based on the species found and their abundance. A good, fair, poor, or very poor. The red line branch last year had a score of good and fair. This year we just got results back fairly recently, and across the board they're all good. It's been improved, which is great. Slide. All right, so these are our certified bug catchers here at MES. It's myself, and then we have Emma Porcelli there in the middle. She's an environmental specialist trainee, and Precious Ozo on the bottom. To become a certified benthic macroinvertebrate sampler, you have to go through a certification process with the Department of Natural Resources in their MESS program, the Maryland Biological Stream Survey. Certification requires a full day of training in the classroom setting and a full day in field instruction. You have to pass a written exam that every year. And then every 3 years, you have to go out with a DNR team member and perform an audit side by side with them. You're sampling 20 square feet, they're sampling 20 square feet, and then all your samples go back to the lab and your BB score should be within a certain statistical analysis of each other. We currently have 3 of us are certified to sample, and that is it. Thank you. I think that's it, right?
No, it's
Okay.
fascinating.
Yeah.
There's more pictures if you want to see more pictures, honestly.
Yeah.
Who's the customer on this? Is the town of Sudlersville or is it the state?
I think it used to be Sudlersville wastewater treatment plant, and then things got shifted around, and now it is Queen Anne's County.
Ah, very good. And how often do you sample? How often are you in
This
the screen?
is, yeah, this is once a year. So right now, they're our only client with this certification process. We've also done Thermont wastewater treatment plant. They had a larger scale bio monitoring that required temperature monitoring. And basically the same 3 segments, ambient and within the water. They required this benthic macroinvertebrate, and they also required an ichthyology study, which was fish. And we don't do ichthyology, so we had that contracted out. But we wrote the report and got it together. They were not happy with that. There were no trout, but you know, it is what it is. We can't lie about that. Any more questions?
I was going to say, and that's one of the reasons we're doing the Route 77 sewer upgrade, because right now there's so much infiltration and stormwater that's coming into that line that it affects, everything goes to Thermont, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Ford with environmental operations.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I have a short presentation for you today. One of our smaller but equally important operations. I don't know how many of you know that we do trash collection in Montgomery County at the bus stops for the Montgomery County Department of Transportation. We've been doing that since 2001. And what those services entail is servicing over 900 ride-on bus stops. And that includes 5-day-a-week pickup. And then we also maintain the receptacles, the small trash receptacles that are at the site. And then we provide debris and litter pickup within 20 feet of the bus stop. And again, we've been doing this since 2001. We pick up about 15 tons per week of trash. And it all goes to the county wastewater treatment, or I'm sorry, waste energy facility, wastewater treatment, CWTE. Next slide. So we have 5 operations staff, all under the capable leadership of Mo Bodie. The joke here, you know, I usually say I have 99 problems and Mo is not one of them. So he runs a good shop. We have a senior lead operations manager and 4 inspectors and 4 contractual laborers to do this work. Next slide. This gives you kind of a look at the kind of equipment that we use. We do have a traditional rear end load packer truck. You can see it up in the top upper right. It's much smaller than you would see in a municipal trash collection, but it's nevertheless the same function. Below the back, there's a compactor there, packs it in, and off we go. We also have a couple smaller units that we use that are pickup truck mounted. So there's 2 Ford F550 extended cabs, and the Parcan easy dump bodies are that blue container on the far left there. And then 2 Isuzu 8 cubic yard rear packer trash trucks. So that's the larger one on the upper right, the packer truck.
Is that Shady Grove transfer station?
We do the whole.
What is that picture Shady Grove?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
And then upper right, that's at the transfer station.
You saw MES staff.
He's offloading at the transfer station. Any questions? Pretty easy today.
What are the inspectors inspecting?
They go through and make sure that the trash receptacles are in good shape, that they're not overflowing. We need to adjust a route.
Any other questions?
Oh, short one this week.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Okay, we have environmental dredging and restoration, Ms. Dolinar's group. I believe we have Tim Kearney with us today.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I'm very happy that Tim's here today to talk about bird banding, a new service area for us. Tim is a 13-year veteran with us, and he's a resident bird expert. He has grown his role over the years for creating service areas that included birding tours that are very popular, and also bird census. And he's a great example of doing what you love and you'll do great things. These tools, if you're wondering, they're not very dredge material like, but they're good tools for the port to showcase their environmental restoration work, and also a good community outreach tool. Thanks, Tim.
Well, thanks for having me, everybody. So next month is 2 anniversaries for me. It's 13 years with MES. It will also be 31 years being an avid birder, all because of a project I had to do in the 5th grade. And it just worked. So so we have a lot of bird monitoring that we do on the dredging side. I do 2 censuses a month at 4 sites just to see what's using the sites, what's breeding, what's not breeding that we want, and also share all this information with the public. It's a great outreach tool to bring the birding and naturalist community to our sites, kind of interpret what we do through birding, and also let them know that we're not the wastewater plant, that we're not this, and dredging isn't that. But the newest thing that we're doing is bird banding. So okay if I walk around? Okay, yeah. So I'll go back in a second, but these are just a point. So bird banding is the process of capturing birds in what's called a mist net, which is this first picture. You can barely see it, but this whole thing is a fine mesh net, and we can barely see it. The birds can't see it at all. They fly right through, they get entangled, and we extract them. My question when I started this, seeing it for the first time, was, is this good for the birds? I really care about the birds, and I liken it to giving a cat a bath. The cat's not happy, you're a little nervous, but if you work quickly and efficiently, it's over, and then the cat is better off and everything's fine. So, you know, they don't necessarily enjoy it, but we aren't hurting them, we aren't killing them. We are just capturing them so we can attach a small metal band with pliers on their leg. And that metal band has a unique code on it. And the idea is that if this bird is captured at another banding station or at ours, we can figure out where it's going, how old it is. This is how we get longevity records. This is how we figure out unusual migration routes, and just all kinds of other information. So once we get the bird out of the net, we put the band on it. Then we also do some morphometrics. We measure wing, we measure tail, we weigh the bird, and then we check for fat. And that's the weirdest part. And to do that, you have to hold the bird in your hand upside down and go on it. And it parts the feathers, and then you can see if there are fat deposits or not on the chest, or it's under the axillaries, which is like the bird's armpit or wing pit, I guess. And the idea is that if it doesn't have fat, then it's not migrating, it's staying put. But if it does have fat, they're like pink or yellow blobs. Those are fat reserves that it's storing up to burn off as it's migrating apart. So, and these are some of the bands. They come on little strings and they pull out different codes. So, go back up. One of the interesting records that we got at MES before we started at Masonville was in 2017, we banded a common tern at Poplar Island. Terns are like smaller, nicer, less aggressive gulls. They only eat fish. They're not going to steal your French fries, but they look kind of similar. We banded a common tern at Poplar in 2017, and somebody recited it on Aruba in 2021. So 4 years later, over 1,800 miles away, we determined it was the same bird. and that's the kind of information we can gather for birds. Next slide.
Who maintains the database? International?
It is federal. It's, here I think it's sort of through USGS, but it's the federal, it's the bird banding lab. It's BBL.
It's not
So-
maintained with Mexico or Canada or.
We can kind of go back and forth between what they're doing because, you know, they're banding there too, but, I'm pretty sure all the databases are saying that's a good question. This is new to me and I didn't think about that aspect. But I will look into that. But at any rate, the Aruba bird was logged because it's one of our birds. So at Masonville, this was a stakeholder request to have bird banding. So we partnered with Birds of Urban Baltimore, which is a nonprofit, and they, their goal is to show that there are actually lots of birds in cities, in Baltimore City. It's not just the county parks and the wildlife reserves. Just the little pocket parks and green spaces have a lot of birds. And Mike Hudson, who I've known for over 10 years, is the bander in charge, and he got all the necessary federal permits. We are authorized to ban birds, and he has a team of volunteers, and basically we're covered, you know, legally. We also, obviously, this is a partnership with MPA because, you know, the dredging is through the port. MES is contracted by the port for all this. U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Ela Carpenter over at Masonville Cove helps out, and Living Classroom staff. Mike also has some volunteers that he brings with him. This can be up to an 8 or 9 person job in one morning. There can be so many birds that need to be extracted quickly. But MES is handling the bulk of the work. We're handling all the staffing, site access, which has been quite a bumpy road so far, but I think we figured it out. A lot can go wrong at 4:30 in the morning. We get there an hour and a half before sunrise. You do not want to have to call people about injuries at 6:10 a.m. on a Saturday. So you want to make sure that you're as safe and as prepared as possible. But we had a few bumps in the road. But I think we're, you know, stuff that we thought would happen and then it did, but we had an action plan. But that's the one thing about this. We have to start an hour and a half before sunrise, which in late May and summer is 4:30 a.m. We also handle all the data processing and the social media aspects, Facebook posts, Instagram posts. We also made signage in English and Spanish at the nets, warning people there's actually a net here. You can't see it. Please don't get stuck in it. That would not be the last thing you want to do is cut the net. They are very expensive and you do not want to cut them. And we welcome visitors. If Masonville opens to the public at 9 a.m., we would ask that visitors arrive at 9 a.m., not at 4:30 in the morning, not that most people would want to. But we like to kind of be up and running and before we allow visitors, but you are more than welcome to come observe. We also, you know, handle the birds, but we could train you on that if you wanted to help. And next slide. So in spring, this was our first season. We started March 31st. We ran through June 9th. We banned every Wednesday, Thursday, and every other Saturday. In that time frame, we captured 571 birds of 53 species. The most numerous was the common yellowthroat, which is a small warbler. They're very cute. They're if you learn their song, you'll hear them anywhere that you're near water. April 13th was our busiest day with 63 birds of 17 species. That surprised me because May is normally peak around here. And then we had 34 recaptures, which were birds that we banded more than once. And we started fall 2023 on August 16th. I panicked yesterday because we got the rarest one yet. And I thought, oh, do I need to redo my whole presentation after it's been approved? But I figured I would just tell everybody, it's a clay colored sparrow. It's just a small brown bird. It doesn't look like much. It looks mostly like our chipping sparrows, but the gray and the brown are in different places. And it's one of those birds where if you work really, really hard and go out every day in season, you can still miss one. If you're an avid birder and you keep lists. But we got one yesterday morning. I took an 8 a.m. lunch break so I could see it. So more good ones this morning. They were texting me about you know, you can follow the Bird Instagram or the Captain Trashville Instagram. We post pictures pretty regularly. I think that's all I have.
What's the biggest bird you've got?
They got a flicker, which is a woodpecker that's about this big. And the bill is about this long, and I did not touch that.
Somebody banded it, though?
We banded it. Actually, I think if you go back, slide. It's the bottom bird. So it's really cool woodpecker. It's got golden wings, and unlike most woodpeckers, it feeds on the ground a lot. After it rains, it digs up earthworms like a robin. But it is a woodpecker, and they do nest in cats, but it was this big. They almost caught a Cooper's hawk, which is the bigger of the two exhibitors that we have, but it hit the net and bounced out. So that would have been the biggest one. And again, that's a micro. We're not authorized to, even as volunteers, are not authorized to handle the raptors.
They're dangerous, aren't they?
Yeah. They could also trouble. So that's my email. Like I said, we do birding tours. We do a lot of birding outreach. If you want to see bird banding, email me for dates and times. If you or anyone wants to come to one of the birding tours, we walk around the sites. I point out the birds. Bird questions in general. That's my email. I can help. Any other questions?
What kind of birds are those?
Wilson's warblers. That's a male on the right, black hat. Female has that like grayer pollen cap. It's 2 piece.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. Lower my hand. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Carney. That was very interesting. How are you capturing these birds, and do those bands have any kind of GPS tracking on them, or is it just a band?
It's just a metal band with a code, so we would have to get lucky enough to recapture that bird, or you know, birds die. So sometimes if people find a dead bird with a band on it, they can report it that way. We can figure out, you know, where they found it and where it was first banded to get an idea of the lifespan and, you know, its travels along the way. And, but no GPS trackers on what we're doing. Some agencies are using that on some of the larger raptors. There are satellite tracked hawks and kites and things like that, but not us yet.
Okay, well, thank you. And I would love to do a visit when you're doing the banding.
Sure thing.
Are there any migratory rare birds that you've done in your past many years?
So many. The clay colored sparrow yesterday. They had an orange crowned warbler this morning. Most of these are migrants. They are passing through, and they use Masonville as kind of like a little urban oasis. It's a green space surrounded by concrete and the harbor. That's the other thing. I can't believe, right? I don't have full confirmation on this, but I heard that we might be the only urban banding station in the country. So either very few people or no one else is gathering this data from an urban environment. So most of the active banding stations are, you know, wildlife reserves or parks. So I reached out to the bird banding lab and didn't hear back in time for today, but I am looking to see if we're the only one or, you know, one of like 2 or 3.
Thank you.
Sure.
That is fascinating. Thank you. I know that when I first got involved with Maryland Environmental Service, I had no idea that they had such a strong relationship with birds, but several beautiful pictures have been shared with me, and this presentation, it's tremendous. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thanks again for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, now we have old and or new business. Anyone? Hearing none. So we have a legal report from Mr. Coleman.
I have a couple of matters that I'll be updating the board on in closed session.
Okay, thank you. And announcements, Thursday, October 19th, 3 p.m. is an audit committee meeting. Thursday, October 26th, 9:30 a.m. is our next full board meeting. We will be going into closed session, and the meeting will be adjourned upon the conclusion of the closed session. And I do have a. Okay, there we go. This, we're going to go into closed session, which is allowable under General Provisions Article Section 3-305B to consult with staff, consultants, and other individuals about pending or potential litigation, and as well to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom the public body has jurisdiction in a personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right. And if there is any comments about that from the general public, they can be submitted to MES. Otherwise, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Here at the Burn House.
Okay, we are moving into